a lot of progressive Democratic candidates around the country are facing unusual headwinds from outside and within their own party. I'm thinking of people like Representative Cori Bush, Representative Ilhan Omar, and others, Rashida Tlaib. And here to talk about that with us now is somebody who has some experience with those kinds of headwinds. My guest, India Walton, is a senior strategist with Roots Action. She was the Democratic candidate for mayor of Buffalo. She won that primary fair and square as a Democratic socialist. And then, well, we'll let her tell us what happened then, and I think it might pull us some lessons for what's going on now. So first of all, India Walton, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And I've been appreciating what you're doing, what you've been doing for a long time. And I'm from upstate New York. I'm from Utica, New York. And been to Buffalo a few times as a kid. Well, in college, I was interested in a person who studied at the so I spent some time at the University of Buffalo, and even I from Utica was amazed at how arctic it was up there, how the university had underground tunnels and everything, so you could get from building to building. But a working city, when I grew up, Utica was a Rust Belt city. Baltimore down here was, Buffalo was too. And there have been some hard times and challenges. These are working class places. Buffalo is a working class city. And we've been told, at least I've been told all my life, that leftists like us don't have a shot with the working class anymore. So, first of all, let's start with this. How'd you get the Democratic nomination?
We organized. That's how we got the Democratic nomination. My opponent was a 16-year incumbent and is touting this renaissance of Buffalo. And there are many working class Buffalonians who are not feeling that renaissance. They're actually feeling a squeeze. And when we knocked on doors and we had conversations with folks, they want access to affordable housing and healthcare and, to feel safe in their community. So it was really a big tent campaign with folks from all types of socioeconomic backgrounds, age, race, and we did the hard work. And meanwhile, there was this Rose Garden strategy that was being used to pretend like there was no opposition, like we didn't exist.
Right.
And the mayor ultimately fell asleep at the wheel, and we brought home the victory.
And I'm blanking out his name. Was it Mayor Brown? Was that his name? And
Mayor,
so here's a guy who's been in there for 16 years, touting the Buffalo Renaissance, a little bit reminiscent of the campaign I think we're seeing now from the Democrats nationally of, look how great the economy is, which I take as, and I think a lot of people take as, you morons don't know how good you have it, which is not a way to talk to working people in this country who've been struggling for so many decades now. So, I just wonder what your reaction has been. So you win the Democratic nomination fair and square against this person who didn't even want to acknowledge you exist. In a way, that's kind of how AOC won her primary, right? In Queens, she ran against someone who didn't really want to acknowledge her, and through organizing, she won. Other people have done the same thing around the country. They've got the money, we've got the numbers, kind of thing.
right.
So you win it, and then what happens for those who don't know?
Then he decided to mount a write-in campaign that was primarily fueled by the right wing and Republicans. Some of his top donors were some of Donald Trump's top donors, and this is a Black man, the first Black mayor of the city of Buffalo, who colluded with not only Republicans but with members of the far right. They would send pieces of mail to homes and they would visibly like darken my face
Hmm.
and choose photos of me where I was yelling into a bullhorn or scowling to make me seem very angry and just like perpetuate all of these racist, nasty, awful tropes. And, it really galvanized and separated the Buffalo community. And I see a lot of those tactics being used, across the nation, particularly when it comes to Black women. And it's very unfortunate.
So, and I want to talk about that because you have a person who is a Democrat who had been in this seat for 16 years, and I think it so often happens, uh, becomes here's my take on it, India, but correct me if I'm wrong. It gets very comfortable with the donor class, with the big business people, and with the handshakes and the smiles and and the understandings, quote unquote. Buffalo Renaissance. A lot of these renaissances are for the businesses down by whether it's the waterfront in Baltimore or another part of DC or whatever. They're sometimes selective, right? I mean, there are developers who prosper and so on, but a lot of working people are still so. I think of Baltimore a lot because they had a big renaissance down at the waterfront, but down in the western parts of Baltimore, they don't even have public transportation to get to the jobs on the eastern side. So you have this, sort of stereotypical, I would almost say, career arc of a Democrat. And then what happens? How does a person like that actually wind up and obviously you weren't in on his campaign, you were doing yours, but yeah, I have to wonder how a person like that winds up thinking, well, okay, I'm going to beat this, you know what, and I'll do whatever it takes. So I'll go to the far right and I'll go to the Republicans, I'll go to all their big donors. Do they come to him, you think, or does he go to them, or what do you think
You
happened?
know, I really think that our messaging had the donor and the business class afraid, right? Because it was no more government giveaways, no more tax breaks for the huge corporations and the developers who paid no taxes, right? While city services are slashed and woefully underfunded, our schools are underfunded, and all of these things. So what they began to say was they latched on to the socialist part of
Uh-huh.
Democratic, right? I've been a Democrat my entire voting history, but they latched on, and there was a real red scare, and they were telling people just flat out lies. The mainstream media published anonymous, articles about me, just rife with lies from anonymous sources, saying that I was involved in drug dealing and was threatening to break people's legs, and it, it really was it was a difficult time, and a lot of things that were said about me and done to me, and even my children, were very hurtful and hard to overcome. But one thing that I still am very proud of is that we ran a campaign with integrity. We didn't take any corporate money. We didn't take any money from developers. All of our $1.5 million that we raised was from the grassroots and individual donations. I mean, it was amazing. The energy was amazing. And now 3 years later, I still run into people in the grocery store who say, I voted for you, or they'll say, you're still my mayor. I think that it has sparked a fire that is not going to die. We have a long way to go, right? Buffalo
Hmm.
just celebrated our 196th birthday. So the powers that be have been building this power structure for the last 200 years. And I just came on the scene maybe 5 years ago. So there's definitely some room to grow, but I think that people are still excited and wanting to be engaged and involved in the process. And, while I wait for Buffalo to catch up to the rest of the country, I'm really excited about supporting folks like Summer Lee and Jamaal Bowman and Cori Bush, because we know that, this fight is not about it's it's hard to put into words that there are people who are actively funding a genocide and ethnic cleansing,
Oh,
and the people who are standing up are being called anti-Semitic instead of being called human beings with the moral compass and the courage to say that this is wrong. Never mind the fact that they are delivering for their constituents, right? their constituents are happy with their performance. None of them have bad, performance ratings, right? They're just being attacked for saying the right thing and being Black while saying it.
Right. And I wanted to talk to you about that um, because it's important, I think, for people to understand what's going on here and what you experience, and then the variation of that they experience, which is the Democratic Party. Its branding is the word democratic, right? I mean, it's supposed to be a democratic process. If the members of the party want India Walton, they get India Walton. If they want Cori Bush, they get Cori Bush. That's the way it works. And to me, one of the critical factors that we're seeing now around the country, yours was a little exceptional in that probably they didn't expect you to win, so they didn't throw all their money into heading you off at the pass like that. They were, but once you won, then they had this other tactic for cutting you out. But the principle to me is the same, which is that for a party to be truly small d democratic, it cannot allow dark money, corporate money, billionaire money into its primaries, especially. I mean, I think we should get all money out of the campaign system anyway. But if a Democratic Party says, yeah, come on in and affect our results with your billions, your Sheldon Adelson billions or APAC billions or whose ever billions it is, developers in Buffalo, uh, then that then well we know what we're up against, but what we're up against is not just the right, it's this structure within our party. So I mean, let's talk about some of those races. For example, Cori Bush won, popular as far as I know in her home district. Now what they're doing, and again I'm going off memory, but if I recall correctly, they picked somebody with a good record as a process as a DA, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, black man. To and I don't want to like malign the man because I don't know him, but it seems to me like it would be very easy to come in and say, look, all you have to do is be okay on these two or three issues, and we'll give you Cori Bush's seat. We'll get you Cori Bush's seat. So you have that. You have Jamaal Bowman, who's been maligned all up and down the place.
Mhm.
You have Mondaire Jones, whose district was kind of taken away from him, and then one of the Democratic insiders said, "Well, I'm going to run there," and he sucked up all the money and then lost.
Mhm.
Who am I leaving out that they're going after?
Yeah, I mean, Summer Lee just won her primary. I mean, we can even look back to the days of Nina Turner's race and what
Right.
they did to her, right? Democrats fight harder to defeat progressives than they do to defeat the far right. And, a part of this parroting, vote blue no matter who, or we have to defeat MAGA, that's no longer the case, right? There is a rise, and I hope that the average American can see this, of working class consciousness, where there are still the far right racist people who are just going to hate anyone who's not like them. And then there's the rest of us. There are the Bernie's 99, right? Those are
Right.
us who are struggling to make ends meet, who, are saddled and strapped with student debt, who are, recognizing the injustices of this system earlier on and earlier on in life. Look at what's happening in college campuses all across the United States right now, right? I keep saying it's going to be the 18 to 35 that are going to save us. So in politics, they tell you to focus on the triple prime voters, right? Those are going to be your 45 and ups, probably church going. They vote in every single election. Those folks, unfortunately, their times are coming to pass. They're coming to an end. And the next biggest voting block and the most excited voting block are going to be young people. And nothing that the Democratic Party is selling right now is appealing to young people. You didn't codify Roe. You can't sell us on abortion rights. We're not afraid of MAGA. You talk about fascism. Look at what they're doing to these kids on college campuses, shooting them with rubber bullets and pepper spraying them in the face for asking for a ceasefire. We're already living in a fascist state. So like what is going to be the motivation for someone to desire to have another Biden presidency?
Right. And as I've been trying to explain to people myself, I've heard for 50 years, given my age, voting for the lesser of two evils, but it's a hard sell to try to convince people that genocide is a lesser of evil to anything, right? You've got a job on your hands now. And India, I'm also thinking of the black and brown communities in this that for some reason what occurs to me is Imam Zayed Shakir saying when Trump was elected, saying, to you white liberals, this is a shock, but for us, it's just another day in the neighborhood. I mean, and so now you're seeing, and Democrats should be worrying about this way more than they are. I think you're seeing this erosion of support for Biden and the Democrats among black voters, among Latino voters, as well as this plummeting among young voters. Arab American voters just going through the floor. I mean, it is the Zogby poll on Michigan, which is a swing state on Arab American voters there. I think at this point, in the last election, as of a couple of months ago, 57% of Arab Americans there said they would vote for Joe Biden. Last time around, it was like 12% or something. So, to me, the days of lesser of two evil are coming to an end. You agree?
I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Like, I would never go into a voting booth and vote for Trump.
Oh yeah,
Not
yeah,
in a bazillion years, right? And
right.
I speak from a solid blue state in New York where we never have to worry about New York State going to Trump. So
Mm,
I can make all the protest votes that I want to, right?
right.
But the fact of the matter is that my life did not materially change under a Trump presidency, right? I'm a woman over 40. I'm not having any more children. I care about abortion rights for young birthing people, but that's not my main issue, right? We didn't get student debt relief. Um, just a myriad of things that could be done to appeal to voters. But the number one issue that's on the forefront of most people's minds these days is the tragedy happening in Gaza
Right.
right now. Right. So I think that even, the rescheduling of cannabis now is on the table, and, these little trinkets and things that they think are going to fool people into coming out to vote it's not going to work. And scaring people into voting Democrat because, oh, you might get this other guy. That tactic is old and tired, and they need to find a new strategy.
Well, I agree. So let's talk about what that new strategy might be. First of all, somebody asked me the other day for advice, and asked a couple other people too, about what Democratic donors could do. And my answer was, find the Cori Bushes, both the actual Cori Bush and people like her, but also people in local communities who represent that. You want to drive excitement. Young people I feel, and a lot of people of color are not going to come out to vote for Joe Biden. He's not going to bring anybody out from their home. And I keep, if you're a single mom working in a restaurant and fast food place, you don't know what your shift's going to be in the next 48 hours. You got to take a bus, change twice, to get to the polling place, wait 5 hours because they're suppressing the black vote. Whoever you are, it's going to be hard to get that kind of enthusiasm for me, from my point of view, for Joe Biden. So find other people that can excite. I mean, that's find an India Walton in your community who's running for something. And if she's not running, get her to run. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think the down ballot races are going to be key. And, the the established Democrats have money. They have all the money in the world. It's the people who are running down ballot, the folks who are really engrossed and ingrained in the community who don't have it, who can't run because they don't have the resources, first of all. And, I mean, thinking about mailers and lit and commercials and all of those other things, right? Our down ballot candidate for Congress right now is filling a vacancy left by Brian Higgins. His name is Tim Kennedy. He's in a plus 10 Democratic district, plus 10 Democrat. and he's accepted $18,000 from APAC.
Mm,
So am I going to be compelled to go out and
right.
vote for anybody on that ballot? No, I mean, I have a good friend who's running for state senate. So, that'll bring me to the polls. But those are the people that Democrats should be supporting. The people who are progressive, the people who are exciting, the people who are getting young people engaged. They should be supporting young people, right? To mount organizing efforts, right? Whether that's get out the vote or ballot initiatives or pushing the issues that are important to them. There are lots of ways to get engaged. I feel like, donating to DNC and to established Democrats is just like pissing money away. It's not going to go toward anything useful.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just besides that, the real big money is what talks there, not our 27
Right.
bucks or whatever, right? And the other, but that connects with something else I wanted to bring up, which is, for example, I have a couple friends who are doing the hard labor of getting on Democratic Party committees and trying to reform the internal process. And I mean, God bless them, India, because I have a really bad ADD. And there's not enough Adderall in the world to get me to sit through those process and procedures meetings, but somebody's got to do it, right? I mean, it's important work. Uh, but and then I hear how they're getting, shafted by this, you know, backstabbed by that. But there's a woman in West Virginia. I had her on the program who just went through the rules and regulations of the Democratic Party and found a way to like shift the dynamic of the internal party structure just on her own, just because she was upset. So what do you think about that internal party work?
I think that is a great strategy. There's some comrades of mine locally who a bunch of them ran for committee, and I hope all goes well. As for me, I just needed to take a step back. Like I said, running for mayor, and then the year after I ran for city council and lost, and I'm just sort of like gassed out of running for anything.
Yeah.
I'm happy to support with strategy and tactics behind the scenes and help fundraise and spread the word. And I feel like that's my role right now as this movement continues to inch our way forward.
So, are there any organizations or candidates that we haven't mentioned? Obviously, Roots Action is one, but where you work, but that people can support, check out. I'm trying to think myself who we might mention. I mean, New York had, I think Buffalo had a socialist mayor at one point, didn't it? In the early 20th century or something.
I
Uh,
don't know.
I
No
think
one
it.
ever talks about that.
I think it did because I think that one of the famous columnists of the time, Walter Lippmann, you know what? Bear with me. I'm gonna just look it up
Yeah,
because
I'm gonna have to.
I know there have been socialist leaders in New York and under other industrial cities, um, and and of course we're talking about democratic socialists, not yeah. Well, the first one that came up was you. So, all right, I'm gonna have to do a little more research on that. But
That is hilarious.
yeah, I thought, oh, great, I found an India Walton. Okay, um, so,
But
but
I do want to shout out there is a local C4 that does work at the grassroots level, supports local campaigns everywhere from school board right up through the mayorship and city council races. It's called Our City Action Buffalo. They do good work. So if anyone's interested in what's happening around here, you can check them out at ourcityaction.com. But yeah, I think that if folks want to support Jamaal Bowman's primary is up next. After that, Cori Bush. If you have $1, if you have an hour, if you have a day, donate, knock a door, make a phone call. On their websites, you can find ways to engage, text banks, phone banks. Every little bit matters. We cannot rest on our laurels and think that we've won because we've got a big fight ahead of us.
yeah, we're up against powerful forces. And I guess last question for you, India. I feel as if our platform, the kind of platform we represent, should be I don't want to say an easy sell, but it should, I mean, it relates exactly to what working people need. I mean, the fact that the Affordable Care Act will give you a plan with a $5,000 deductible, okay, if you're in a car accident, who has $5,000? That kind of thing. So healthcare, a minimum wage that people can actually live on, affordable childcare, go down the list. It seems to me, you've been doing this at the street level now for a long time. Do people just think it can't happen? It's not real? Have people been convinced that you're trying to, sell them on something that doesn't exist? It's snake oil or what? Why aren't people saying, yeah, I want that because it's doable and it's something that would help them?
People do want it, and then people in power tell them that it's not possible, or their first reaction is, where's the money going to come from? Well, if we can send billions of dollars in arms to murder innocent people, we can surely find money to provide health care to Americans and children right here at home. I like to recite in the words of the late great Tupac Shakur, they got money for wars, but can't feed the poor, right? It's all about the political will and the political education. When you talk to folks about how these things are possible, they happen in other countries. And in small communities, they're doing pilot programs where they're trialing universal guaranteed income and things like that. We saw during COVID, right? Everybody was able to get a COVID vaccine, right? Everybody was able to stay home and collect unemployment. The government sent out stimulus checks. Everybody got some SNAP benefits in their home, right? So we know these things are possible. It's been done. We have to
Right.
get the people in office with the political will to do the will of the people.
Oh, well said. All right. And I will just close with you quoted the great Tupac Shakur. I'll quote the late, great Jim Morrison. They got the guns, but we got the numbers. So, on that note, India Walton, political strategist, senior political strategist with the Roots Action, former mayoral candidate in the city of Buffalo. Thanks for all the great work you've done, and thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
We depend on your support here at the Zero Hour, so please give whatever you can at any of the links you see on your screen. Thanks so much.